Well, welcome, Stock Show Nation. We are here today with the Cervi Rodeo Company, and they are the stock contractors for the National Western Stock Show, have been for more than 50 years. And for those of you that don't know what the stock contractor does, they provide all the livestock that'll be in our rodeo at the National Western Stock Show. A lot of it comes off of their own ranch, and then they subcontract out to other stock contractors for some of the stock to make sure the National Western Stock Show has the best animals that are out there with the cowboys every year and year in and year out. And we're lucky today to be with two of the leaders of Cervi Rodeo. First, the founder, Mr. Mike Cervi, is to my right. Mike, thank you for being here today.
It's a pleasure to be here today, and thank you for inviting us.
You're welcome. And his son, one of his sons, Chase Cervi, who has been quite an accomplished pickup man here at the National Western Stock Show in his lifetime, and been an NFR Pickup Man of the Year several times also. Chase, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having us.
And we'll talk about their different roles, as well as Mike's other son, Binion, who is obviously an integral part of the National Western Stock Show, but he's at the NFR right now with their animals that are in the NFR. So we're going to interview today these two gentlemen regarding the National Western Stock Show Rodeo. So Mike, let me start with you. Recently, we celebrated 50 years of Cervi Rodeo as the stock contractor for the National Western Stock Show. As the founder of Cervi Rodeo, can you tell me how it all started?
Well, I've been interested in rodeo all my life. When I was a youngster, I was involved in it as a contestant. As time went on, it fit our schedule to have rodeo stock and do what we do. We live on a ranch out by Sterling, Colorado, and it's been a natural fit for me. I'm also in the cattle business. So that's what prevailed me to get into the rodeo business. I've been in it all my life as a contestant, as a contractor.
Yeah, Mike is being humble here. He's one of the most well-respected individuals that's ever been in the rodeo business, and truly a legend in the rodeo business. And we have been so fortunate at the National Western Stock Show to have this relationship with an expert company that is just 50 miles away from us here. We couldn't be more fortunate than to have you all that close by, I think, Mike. So as you think back over the 50 years, what rodeo memories stick out most in your mind? Are there any memories over those years that really stick out as exceptional in your mind?
Well, here at the stock show, I grew up here in this area. I caught a calf over that Coliseum in 1952, the first year it was built. So I've grown up in this area. I worked down in the Denver Union stockyards when I was a youngster. So this whole area has been very, very close to me forever. And then I got in the rodeo business, and my dreams would be when I was catching that calf, is to be the producer of the stock show. And it was fortunate that I had it. Well, that'd be about 15 years later.
Wow. I mean, the history that you have just across this site, Mike, you've seen a lot of just, I'm sure, great cowboys come and go and compete here. And is there any one individual that you recall that, boy, you became really close to that was competing here, or anybody like that?
Well, there was a fellow by the name of Casey Tibbs, and I'm not a lot younger than he is, but Casey was an individual that stood out. When I went to Brussels, Belgium with him in 1957, I really became good friends of his, and Bill Linderman. Those two really carried the rodeo business to a point to where we've been able to take it further up the line. But those two have created what rodeo originally was, and I'd have to give my credit to those two originally, or would not have gotten to where it is today unless somebody like them would have been involved.
Interesting. Thank you. So Cervi Rodeo is now being run day to day by your sons, Binion and Chase. When they were young, did you see this coming? Did you see they might someday continue the legacy of the Cervi Rodeo at all these great rodeos across the country?
Well, they grew up in this industry because we didn't have a lot of a choice. My wife and I more or less had to take them with us. She enjoyed going, and so this is a funny business, but once you're around it, you become addicted to it. Don't ask me why, but these two boys grew up in it, which naturally knew they were going to be involved. And of course they have been. And when they were 13, 14, they began to get involved more. And when they're 19 and 21, they took the whole operation over. And they have done well since, and I'm pretty proud of them. But yes, I could see them doing it, but that was my side of it. I don't know if their mother wanted them to or not, but I could see it coming. And all fathers want their sons to follow in their footsteps if they enjoy what they do. And I certainly enjoyed the rodeo business.
Yeah, no, a tremendous legacy that the Cervi family has here in Colorado, and obviously with the National Western Stock Show. And for those people that don't really know much about Cervi Rodeo, they produce rodeos all across America here, and some of the biggest in the world. San Antonio, Houston, to mention just a couple. So they are very, very well respected, and it all started with the gentleman to my right, Mr. Mike Cervi. So thank you, Mike. I'm going to turn to Chase for a minute here and talk a little bit more about the day-to-day of National Western Stock Show and so forth. And I alluded earlier to Chase being one of the top pickup men in rodeo numerous times, and he's been a pickup man at the National Western Stock Show, I know, in my entire tenure, which has been 11 years now. So when you think of the National Western Rodeo, Chase, what are some of your fondest memories?
Oh, I just remember when I was a kid, like always coming here, always helping in the back pens, load, sort, and being a part of that. And then I was in high school, I went to school at World Central, which is outside of Kingsburg. And, we'd always take field trips on FFA Day here and stuff like that. And always having to come to the rodeo for that. And it was just a neat setup for me. And I think I was 14 or 15 the first time I picked up at Denver. So I was still in high school. So all my high school buddies and everybody was there watching me pick up, and that was pretty special to me.
Boy, it sure was. At 14, that's pretty hard to, as prestigious a rodeo as the National Western is, that must have been quite a thing to see 8,000 people cheering at you in the rodeo every night. So that sounds fun. Cervi Rodeo Company also is very well respected for the animal care and use program that you have for your bucking stock. Tell us more about how an animal is cared for from the ranch to the rodeo, Chase.
Well, we have a ranch in northeastern Colorado out by Sterling, and they have a few thousand acres to run on. So, they have all the open country they need. And then we always, coming to the rodeo, we always make sure we haul them on straight decks, or we have a horse pot, which is specially made for horses so the travel is safe and comfortable for them. And then literally, they buck probably 8 to 10 times a year. So that's, a couple minutes a year they'll buck. The rest of the time they're turned out on our ranch at northeastern Colorado, just living the dream. And they have it better than most animals, period, I think. Because, they get to run on thousands of acres, good feed, and it's a good life for them.
Yeah, I've seen Chase and Binion do on their social media from time to time, folks. They'll open up the horse trailer, and those animals can't wait to get in there. That just, to me, shows that, my gosh, they know about where they're going, and they know it's going to be fun, and they know they're going to be well cared for, right?
Yes, sir.
So let's talk about the Cervi horses, because the Cervi horses are some of the absolute best in the world. How does a horse come up from birth to then become a top horse in your rodeo? I know you have really a training program from 4, 5, 6 years old on up. So tell us a little bit about that.
What we'll do, we breed about 150 mares a year. And what we'll do is they'll obviously foal in the spring, and they'll just be turned out as yearlings, 2-year-olds, and 3-year-olds, and we won't really touch them until they're 3 to 4. They won't go anywhere, and then we'll kind of start messing with them when they're 3 to 4 years old, putting them in the chute, sorting them, just kind of showing them that nobody's going to hurt them, everything's going to be good. And then when they're a late 4, we will take them to what we call rodeo schools, and we'll buck them at those where it's young kids coming to get on, and they will get on these colts as 4-year-olds. And a lot of people say, well, the young kids getting on the colts is going to be, you know, hard on the kids. You know, it'll buck them off. They're wild. They're both wild, but it's not, because it's a learning experience for both of them. The colts have no power. Like when they're learning how to buck, it's a learning for them and for the kids. So they have no power. So the kids are, if they get bucked off, the colts jump away from them, or they don't just tromp them up. You know, they don't just stomp on them and like hurt them.
Right.
So it's a very good learning experience for the horses and the kids, we think. And we'll buck them as 4s and 5s at the rodeo schools, and they won't go to a PRCA rodeo until they're 6. So it's a long process for sure.
Yeah, and I've witnessed at some point along the line, Chase, you all have a bucking dummy that will get on those horses. What age typically do you do that? And I know you do that at one of your ranches.
Right, that's what, we'll just do that once or twice. It's when they're 3s.
Okay.
Just all that does is kind of like a shoot procedure. Just kind of teaches them in the shoot, and then when they go out, it doesn't teach them to buck. The horses are bred to buck. They're either going to do it or they're not, like a racehorse is bred to run. So it just kind of teaches them just the whole atmosphere, you know, the chutes, the arena, and it's a contraction you put on them. It's with a rigging and a dummy, and they go out, and it's like a screen door shutting, and the dummy will pop off after 6 seconds. It doesn't hurt the horse at all. It's like a teaching device for them.
Yeah, I've witnessed this myself, and you can tell right away which horses are going to come out and actually be horses that might actually end up being a rodeo horse for the Cervis. But and then you can tell the other ones that just come out of there and run, and they're they might not make the cut. But you never know. It's early in their life. Let's talk a little bit about you being a pickup man. Tell us what you're looking for after a rider makes it 8 seconds on a horse and he doesn't get bucked off. What's your first move as a pickup man?
Oh, you just got to go in there and just you always have to have a good partner, the other pickup man. He's got to be pushing, hazing the horse so the horse doesn't set up. And just go in there, and the main thing in the bareback riding is to get the flank off the horse, which is not hurting the horse at all, but it makes it where the horse runs, you know, keeps going lined out and things just go smoother. Get the flank, and then you get the cowboy and make sure you set the cowboy on the ground safely. And then the biggest part is just make sure the horse exits the arena safely. And then the bronc riding, your biggest thing is the bronc riders have a hack rein and the bronc halter. And the biggest thing is to always try and get the hack rein and get dallied up. That way you have the horse snubbed up. He doesn't, there's not a risk of an injury to the cowboy or the animal, so things just go smoother that way.
Okay, so when you're talking about snubbing up a horse, you're talking about, why don't you explain that to the crowd a little bit more?
Just when you go up, and the bronc rider's on the bucking horse, you ride up and you grab the hack rein and you dally up. That way you're together, and then you set the cowboy. The cowboy gets off while you are dallied to the bucking horse, and set him down safely, and then exit the horse out of the arena safely.
Yeah, I think one of the great misconceptions in rodeo, guys, and we've both been around this, you both all your lives, me a lot of my life, is that the animals somehow are being hurt on, you know, whether it's the flank strap or some other mechanism that's on that animal. And we've dispelled that rumor many, many times in our lives. Any comments on that? Mike, you've dealt with that your whole life. People thinking somehow these rodeo animals are being hurt, and that's just, there's no truth to that whatsoever.
No, and it isn't any different than you wearing a belt on your pants. Mm-hmm. These horses are bred. We take the best mares and the best studs that have bucked before. So the bloodlines are geared that they will go ahead and buck, and they enjoy that. There is a false thinking about that flank. Mm-hmm. It's sheepskin lined. Why do you put it on? Because it isn't any different than you wearing a belt. It gives security to the horse and to the rider. That flank comes off as soon as he bucks. And my best way of answering is that there's not a problem with that flank strap. Mm-hmm. Now, people will say so. What's a problem with animals are not feeding them, putting them in a truck that they don't fit in, abusing them. That's what's wrong with animals. That flank strap is a far cry from hurting that horse, believe me.
Right. Yeah, and the bulls have the same sort of misconception that somehow that animal's being hurt around their genitals, and that just couldn't be farther from the truth, right, Chase? That is...
Right. It's just a light little cotton rope wrapped around. It's not around the genitals either. It's kind of around their belly. And it's basically, people like to say, like a fly. You know, a fly's around your ear, you swat at it. Yeah. That's the exact same thing of a flank strap. You're just swatting at it. It's not hurting the animal whatsoever.
Yeah, and it kind of signals the animal that, hey, it's about time, we're going to open that gate and it's going to be time for you to buck, right? So so I always think that's a good analogy too. I've heard other people use. So anyway, it's been a real pleasure being here with you guys today. Is there anything that I didn't ask you that you want to share with our crowd here today? Anything at all on top of your mind, either one of you? Mike, anything that I didn't ask you?
Chase should tell them how we treat these animals next to 8 times 80 seconds. Besides that time they're bucking. Mm-hmm. These horses are out on a ranch. They get fed every day. They get a marvelous diet. All of our animals are fat the year round. They eat well. Their colts are well taken care of. The bulls the same way. I'm not sure an animal is better taken care of than a rodeo animal. They're a precious animal to this kind of a business. We take very, very good care of them. They don't see any shortness of feed or shortness of water. If an animal is taken care of better, it would be a rodeo animal would get it.
Yeah, that's a very good point, and I think you alluded to, and Mike just confirmed it. Maybe you're only bucking these animals 8 to 10 times a year. Is that right, Chase?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So they and the rest of the time, like you said, they're turned out on thousands of acres and have it made. And right. And some of these animals are worth, I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars. I mean, they sell horses for $300,000 to $400,000 an animal. So I mean, that's a big investment. People aren't going to want to risk not taking care of that. So it's pretty special.
Right. Yeah, and I think the crowd knows we have 29 rodeo performances here in Denver in the 16 days of the National Western Stock Show. And, you know, to work that many rodeos, the stock contractor has to provide just an unbelievable amount of stock in order for us to have that high level of competition, because those animals are athletes competing against the athletes that are coming up in the rodeo. They're just as big an athlete as some of the greatest athletes that are the men that are here, and the women that are barrel racing are riding great athletes, provided a lot of times here by Cervi Rodeo. And thank you both for being here with us today. Again, Cervi Rodeo, ladies and gentlemen, has been the stock contractor here for more than 50 years. And you know, in this business, you rarely get a chance to work with a rodeo company that is just a short 50 miles down the road from you, especially one that is as of high quality as the Cervi Rodeo Company. And as I've said to Mike and Chase and Binion before, you know, this has been more than just a stock contractor relationship. This is a friendship that National Western has had with Cervi Rodeo since the beginning of time, and I just want to thank Mike for his great leadership and starting this company and making it what it is today, and raising two pretty good guys that are now continuing it on, Mike. So thank you for your commitment lifelong to the sport of rodeo.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
You bet. And thanks, Chase, for being here today. And
thank you.
We cannot wait to see these two at the 2022 National Western Stock Show. It is going to be a rodeo like you've never seen, ladies and gentlemen.